Howdy folks, Chief Meteorologist Nick Lilia here, taking a look at your winter forecast as we head through December, January, and February. The National Weather Service and NOAA put together their thinking for the whole nation. We're going to take a peek into what we're thinking about for South Mississippi. But what we did is we found climate data for the average high, low, and precip totals, and we compared that against 6 years of La Nina data going back to 2000, the high temp, the low temp, and the precip totals. And then what we did was we looked back even further than that, all the way back to 1954, and took the numbers from that too, and then compared those against each other, and then that to the actual average. A lot of math being done down here on any given day. There is a problem, though, and the problem isn't one that may seem like it should be a problem. Let's say the regular average for a made-up month, we'll call it Smarch because I'm a Simpsons fan, is 76.55 with 5 inches of rain. 76 for a high temperature, 55 for a low, 5 inches of precipitation. Well, let's say the La Nina average for our wonderful month of Smarch is, it turns out to be 77, 56, and 5.01 inches of rain. Well, hell, you might say to yourself, hey, that's an above average month, but, I mean, did it feel above average? You know, I don't know too many people that at 76 degrees would look at 77 and go, man, is it above average today? You'd probably say the same thing the rest of us do. You say, yeah, you know, it's about average. It's not much different. So we got to do something that's a lot of fun. Math. And it's time to find the standard deviation, which is a value that is calculated and quantifies the amount of variability in data values. That's what the book says. For all of us regular people out there, it just means the variability between all the data that's available. It gives us a good feels-like comparison. You know, so if something's one standard deviation above the mean, that sounds like fancy words, but, I mean, does it feel different than any other average day? And it sounds complicated. It really isn't. The good news is with computers, we can figure out the standard deviation pretty quickly and pretty easily with Excel. So let's dive into the numbers. So for December, your regular average, 4.91 inches of rain, for example. In our 6 La Ninas going back to 2000, just for some quick back-of-the-napkin math, 3.87, 4.88, 8.91, 6.67, 8.71, and 7 inches right on the nose of rain. Well, the standard deviation, so the difference, the variability between each one of those numbers on average, is just over 2 inches of rain. So in order for it to kind of feel different, you can say, okay, well, let's add 2 and subtract 2.02 from our average. So if we get more than 6.93 inches of rain or less than 2.89 inches of rain, it's probably going to feel wet and feel like a dry month for December. And that happened a couple of times. How about here and there and with our 7.0? That feels like it was a wet month as opposed to just kind of, you know, about average or so. All right, well, now that we have that all taken care of, the National Weather Service is saying below average rainfall for December through February with a pretty decent shot as you head in some of our southeastern counties and into Alabama for some well below average rainfall. Well, then you look at temperatures and it says, okay, above average, and then maybe a whole lot above average in terms of the temperature across some of our southern and southwestern counties across South Mississippi. But we'll hold the phone here. If we go back to our, what does it feel like? Is it going to feel like it's completely above average and completely below average? Well, actually, if you go back and dig through the numbers, not only the last 6, but you go all the way back to 1954 and you pull out a lot of the La Ninas that have started in the fall and lasted through the winter and ended in the spring, well, those are average and actually wetter than average in December in terms of your temperature and rainfall. What about January? Well, it turns out January is actually warmer and drier. And then as you look into February, how about a warmer and about average? I will say this, of note, and I've put this down here, we got kind of 5 bullet points, 5 take-home points with our last 6 La Ninas, which is all but one actually featured snowfall in South Mississippi at least one time during the winter. That doesn't mean sticking snow, that doesn't mean a big blizzard, that just means snowflakes were reported. all but 08-09. That was the only year that we didn't have it all winter long. December has actually been cooler, technically, and has been one of those standard deviations above the mean, wetter. So we've actually had, and we saw that with the data a little bit earlier, a more likely chance that you are above average in terms of precip in December. Well, what about January? January is almost always warmer. I think there was only one January of all of them, in the last 6 at least, that wasn't above average. Technically, didn't make it to the feels like, but it was technically above average. And then February has about average precip within 0.14 inches when you take them all together and you kind of average them out. So the idea is that if you look at all of this, that's how we came up with kind of this as opposed to just the above average temperature, below average rainfall. I tend to think that we're going to be about average in December and a little bit wetter. I think warmer and drier will hold for January. And then I think we're going to be warmer with about average precip in February. Another thing of note, now the snow part is cool, right? Everyone's probably really excited about that. But how about this? Some good news for some of the mosquitoes out there. Or I guess bad news for mosquitoes, good news for us. Lows have gotten into the teens 4 of the 6 times that we've had a La Nina around here. So that's also good news, at least going into next spring and summer. Hopefully it'll do a good job at putting an end to, at least a little bit, the number of mosquitoes a little bit earlier in the year, and maybe even push back on some of the mosquitoes that are those disease-carrying mosquitoes. Okay, well, it's not all good news, unfortunately. And now we have to talk about the opportunity for severe weather. And back here, we've got 2 severe weather seasons in South Mississippi. We've got the one in the winter and the one in the spring. Both of them relatively active in their own ways. They use kind of different things in the atmosphere to get going. But nevertheless, we have 2 seasons around here. And generally in the wintertime, we watch areas of low pressure that kind of push off to the south or maybe come off northeast from parts of Texas and kind of slide on through. And as that cold front moves through, it gives us showers and thunderstorms. Well, when you look back at the data between January, February, and March, during La Ninas, we tend to see an uptick in the amount of severe weather. Think back to last season, last January and February and March, we were in a similar style La Nina. Now, we had plenty of severe weather around here. I don't need to remind folks about what happened January 20th and the 21st. But that wasn't it. We had severe weather, it seemed like, at least once a week, almost all January, February, and March. If not here, it was just off to the west, or just off to the east, or just off to our north. But what about as we head toward spring? We get February, March, and into April. Well, we still have better chances to see severe weather in terms of versus the overall average. So as we move through and past December toward January, February, March, April, and even into May, we are going to see, unfortunately with this La Nina, kind of an uptick in our chances for severe weather. So that's kind of the outlook as we head through not only December, January, and February. We can go back real quick, just as kind of a quick recap here. Below average rainfall, this is from the National Weather Service and NOAA. They're saying above normal temperatures. However, I tend to think that your December, if we break it down by month, your December is going to be about average and probably a little wetter than average. We're going to be warmer and drier come January, and February warmer and average. And keep in mind, we are talking about the overall month. This certainly doesn't mean it can't get cold around here. This certainly doesn't mean it can't be much warmer around here, which is why I pointed out to the fact that, even with it being warmer than average, you look back at the La Ninas, we still get a chance for some snow at least once here, usually in the winter, even with a La Nina sticking around. So there's a look at your wintertime overall outlook for the season. I'm Chief Meteorologist Nick Lilia.